What is a secret to unifying China? You've probably heard of Confucius, Lao Tzu, and Sun Tzu. But what if there's a political philosopher whose influence might be just as influential in the course of Chinese history? And what if I told you the same philosopher later fell victim in the hands of his own policies? Before China was unified under a single imperial state in 221 BC under the Qin Dynasty, it was actually composed of many different states during the Warring States era. One of these states was the Qin on the western side of China. It was filled with wastelands, and compared to its neighbors, it was not as populous when it first started out. How then did a marginal state in the west of China come to conquer the rest of the warring states and establish China's first empire? The answer might lie in this man, Shang Yang. One sinologist, Yuri notes that Shang Yang is one of the best known and most controversial statesmen in China's long history. Who is this Shang Yang? What were his appalling policies that allowed the Qing to unify all of China after his passing? And how deep was his influence on the subsequent 2,000 plus years of Chinese history? Let's find out. Shang Yang was originally known as Gongsun Yang or Wei Yang. He lived during the 4th century BC. At first, he worked for the kingdom of Wei, but when he heard that Duke Xiao of Qin was looking for talented men, he headed there to seek employment. He had quite a bit of success there, and soon, the king started implementing his policies. His achievements led to the Qing granting him 15 cities in Shang. He was then known as a Lord of Shang, also as Shang Yang, which is how he is known nowadays. However, Shang Yang was not without his enemies. His policies pissed off a lot of the local nobles in Qin, as well as a crown prince who later became the king. Unlucky for Shang Yang, he ended up suffering in the hands of his own policies when he tried to escape punishment. According to the records of the grand historian, the Shiji, one night when he was about to live in an inn, the innkeeper demanded to see his ID, a policy that he was said to have adopted. When he could not produce it, he was not able to live in the inn and escaped to the state of Wei. Wei did not accept him either. Shang Yang tried to raise an army to rebel against the Qing, but his life was eventually ended in battle against them. The Qing took his body and attached his head and limbs to 5 different horses, who were then made to run and pull his body apart. That was it for him. While he passed, his ideas lived on. He was said to have written a book called the Shangjing Shu, the Book of Lord Shang. While many scholars doubt that he actually wrote the entire book, it seems that a good portion of the book was written between his lifetime and a generation or two afterwards. Some scholars speculate that a portion of the book was started by him, and as time progressed, his students wrote a good amount as well. Nonetheless, the book is still pretty coherent with its ideas, so it can serve as a window to Shang Yang's ideas. When reading the book of Lord Shang, as well as his biography in the records of the grand historian, we can see that Shang Yang's policies were known to be especially controversial. He advocated for strict punishments for minor crimes, with the logic that if minor crimes were punished heavily, then no one would dare to commit major crimes. One time, Shang Yang even ordered the nose of the crown prince's tutor to be cut off, because a prince broke the law. In addition to punishments, he also brought forth a system of rewards in order to incentivize the farmers and soldiers of the Qin. He adopted a system of ranks for the people, and the higher the rank, the more rights you have, such as being able to obtain more land and slaves. You want to move up a rank? Capture the head of an enemy soldier, or you can buy your way through with grain. Perhaps one of the most controversial policies of Shang Yang is advocating for the people to be made simple-minded and ignorant. Through the Shangjing Shu, he viewed the strength of the state and the strength of the people as 2 sides of a lever. If the people are strong, then the state is weak. If the people are weak, then the state is strong. In doing so, he devised policies to make sure that the people did not think too much, only caring for farming and fighting. By making sure that the only way for people to gain rewards is through activities that strengthen the state like farming and fighting, then the people would not spend their time and effort on other pursuits like becoming yappers or merchants. One of his major policies is to make sure the wildlands of the Qing were cultivated. You know, he was very serious about this because in the Shu, he proceeded to give 20 recommendations on how to get people to farm and cultivate wastelands. He did this through several ways. By restricting the profitability of other professions, he encouraged the people to be farmers to turn the wasteland into farmland. Later in the book, he also encouraged immigration from other states so that the land in Qin could be used, while simultaneously weakening the manpower of rival states. At this point, I do want to point out that Shang Yang did not advocate for double standards and arbitrary punishment. He emphasized for laws to be made clear for everyone in the state, and raised an anecdote where in the state of Qin, even a favorite of a prince was cut through the spine for arriving late. By doing so, it sent a message to the rest of the officials that even being close to a ruler could not spare them from punishment, and thus no one dared to break any laws. From this, we can see a form of social engineering by Shang Yang where he cleverly engineered a system where personal incentives line up with state incentives as well. For people's attitude towards profit is just like the tendency of water to flow downwards, without preference for any of the four sides. The people are only interested in obtaining profit, and it depends on what their superiors encourage, what they will do. As a result, there was little need for Shang Yang to make grandiose moralizing speeches to indoctrinate the people to encourage them to serve the country. By merely coming up with good incentives that encourage people to fight, the people would selfishly want to fight, benefiting the state in the process. After his passing, his policies stayed on. Were they successful for the Qing? No doubt about it. After all, the Qing did end up unifying all of China, thanks to his policies which started it all. His methods of governing started a school of philosophy called legalism, and future statesmen like Han Fei eventually contributed to it. If you want to see a video on Han Fei, please let me know in the comments below. Throughout Chinese history, this philosophy was known for advocating for a strict system of rewards and punishments to control human behavior, and it thus wasn't that surprising that it had its fair share of opponents from other schools such as the Confucians, who emphasized morality and cultivating oneself. When the Qing did end up uniting all of China, it continued with its legalist policies. However, these policies eventually led to its downfall. When Liu Bang was escorting prisoners and a few escaped, and that any escape resulted in the punishment of his life being taken away, he logically reasoned that he might as well release all of the prisoners. Some of these prisoners continued to follow him, and he later rebelled against the Qing. Doing so, this led to the demise of the Qing and the establishment of the Han Dynasty, which sought to rule differently than the Qin Dynasty. That is not to say that legalism just perished here on out. After all, its policies do have a certain rate of effectiveness. While it looked like Confucianism ended up winning out against legalism in the end, some administrators were still inspired by legalism for governing, leading to the state of 外儒内法, meaning Confucianism on the outside, legalism on the inside. In one way, I guess you can say legalism has been lurking in the shadows, stealthily influencing Chinese governing policy for the 2,000 years ever since, up to the present day. What do you think about Shang Yang's policies? Were they too brutal, or necessary given the circumstances of the time period? Do you think his influence is still being felt in modern-day East Asian societies? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it to the end and enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me a lot.